First would be onboarding across geographies. You're not just onboarding one team anymore, you're onboarding globally. So that means that localization, different regulations, different timelines, and that creates a lot more complexity at scale. Secondly, is compliance. So training isn't one and done, it's reoccurring certifications, audits, and tracking, and the cost compounds year over year. Third, product and customer training, which is actually revenue enabling, but also expensive to build, manage, and scale effectively. And then all of this is happening across disconnected platforms. And that's the real issue here. Because when your systems don't talk to each other, you lose visibility. And when you lose visibility, you lose control over spend. So it's not just that enterprises are spending millions, it's that they don't have a centralized way to understand where that money is going or what it's actually producing. And that brings us to the hidden side of all these costs. So this is where things get a lot more interesting because a lot of the biggest costs in training aren't actually visible. They're hidden, and these hidden costs are what really impact ROI. So let's break down a few of these. So there's multiple LMS platforms, which mean multiple licenses, duplicated content, and fragmented user experiences. Manual processes, and this one is huge because it's not just time, it's also human error. And then enrollment, tracking, reporting, all which are done manually, this creates inefficiencies that add up fast. And then there's IT overhead. So integrations, maintenance, ongoing support. This is something that most enterprises heavily underestimate. And then onto one of the biggest, which would be low engagement, because if learners aren't actually completing training, that investment isn't really doing anything. And this is where these hidden costs start to matter. They're not the kind of costs that you see clearly in a budget line, but they have a huge impact on performance, on outcomes, and ultimately on ROI. So the issue isn't that most enterprises are overspending, it's that they're not operating efficiently with what they're already investing. So let's quantify what that actually looks like, and more importantly, what it looks like to fix it. Before I hand it over, just quickly for context, Maple LMS is the #1 rated LMS on the Salesforce App Exchange, and we've been recognized globally for innovation in enterprise learning. So what you're about to see isn't theoretical. This is what organizations are actively implementing today. Joe, I'll pass it over to you to walk through today's solution architect.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darian. And I'll piggyback a little bit on what you mentioned. When relying on manual procedures and disconnected systems and scattered content creation methods, it can mean millions of dollars wasted. And equally, if not worse, it often results in lower engagement from your learners, which is not what any organization wants for training and learning experiences. However, with the Salesforce LMS solution, instead of building from scratch, this framework utilizes the CRM infrastructure that you already have in place to avoid use of overlapping platforms and takes a ton of the manual work out of administration and enables sharing of training materials globally, which ultimately can drive down your overall associated cost by 40 to 60%, which is quite considerable. By transitioning to a more strategic and unified approach, this fundamentally changes how you manage learning and training operations. And by integrating with Salesforce, you can scale your educational programs without having to continuously hire more administrative staff. Furthermore, your global teams gain a single centralized content hub while automation handles the day-to-day enrollment and tracking. Best of all, it completely removes the need to manage duplicate user profiles, dramatically reducing the ongoing burden on your IT and support teams. With such capabilities, corporate training is undergoing a major shift, and it's important that we dig deeper into the foundations of these changes next. So there's several key reasons why this change is taking place and why we are seeing learning move directly into CRM ecosystems, but more specifically with Salesforce. First, the fundamental workforce data you need is already in the system, eliminating the friction of starting from scratch. Second, this setup enables managers to access real-time performance insights, bridging the gap between learning and actual business outcomes. From an end user perspective, it provides a highly unified experience. Employees don't need to learn a separate platform, which significantly reduces the burden of having to use and keep up with an additional system. Finally, this move delivers the enterprise scalability that growing businesses need by leveraging an infrastructure built to handle large volumes of users securely and efficiently, making it the natural hub for continuous workforce development, which I'll go into more detail on in a little bit. But I also want to mention as you grow, so does the complexity of compliance, which is one of the most critical areas for any large organization to deal with, which we'll now get into. So traditionally, staying compliant is an uphill battle involving manual spreadsheets, endless reminder emails, and weeks of stressful audit preparation. For a global enterprise, this isn't just a headache, it's a significant risk exposure that often requires an entire team just to maintain. And with a Salesforce LMS approach, this completely automates this life cycle. Instead of manual entry, the system triggers specific training paths the moment an employee's role or region changes and handles the nudge factor for you by automatically managing reminders and escalations to ensure 100% coverage. So this means your compliance is always on, so to speak, by providing a transparent audit trail without your team ever having to lift a finger for tracking. So, what this delivers is a truly resilient framework for the enterprise and ensures that management stays informed and every deadline is met. It also takes the guesswork out of the future through automatic certification renewals and real time dashboards that give your leadership instant visibility into your compliance posture. Additionally, by integrating these workflows directly with your legal and policy systems, you can move from a reactive state to a proactive one where you're always audit ready and your risk is effectively neutralized. And while compliance can be an issue for organizations, so can scaling, as I mentioned before. So let's dive into that. So many organizations hit a classic wall, the scaling penalty. Traditionally, expanding your global footprint meant you had to hire more L&D staff just to keep up with the volume. You ended up with duplicated content, localization workflows that were too complex to manage, and a significantly slower time to market for critical training across regions. A Salesforce LMS architecture solves this by introducing a centralized management layer with localized execution and gives regional teams the controls they need without creating massive administrative overhead. So this ensures whether a learner is in London, Tokyo, New York, wherever it may be, that they receive a high quality experience that feels local but is governed by a single central source of truth that delivers a truly seamless global framework. By hosting all materials in a centralized hub with regional distribution controls, you can leverage automated translation and cultural customization to meet local needs instantly. So, this empowers local administrators with specific regional roles while maintaining global oversight to ensure branding remains consistent everywhere. And ultimately, features like the time zone aware scheduling ensure that your training is delivered with precision, effectively neutralizing the operational drag that typically hampers global expansion. But, how does leadership actually see the ROI and value of a Salesforce LMS solution? I'm sure it's on everyone's minds here today, so I'd like to speak to that next. Um, one of the biggest, if not the biggest challenges for any L&D leader is proving value. Traditionally, training teams have struggled to demonstrate their impact beyond simple completion rates. So this visibility gap makes learning budgets incredibly vulnerable during cost-cutting cycles because the link between a course and the bottom line remains anecdotal rather than numerical. The Salesforce LMS solution bridges this gap by connecting learning data directly to your core business outcomes and uses predictive analytics to identify at-risk learners or emerging skill gaps before they affect your business. Because this sits within Salesforce, it can automatically correlate training milestones with actual sales performance, customer satisfaction scores, and employee retention metrics all in real time and provide undeniable proof of ROI, which is paramount to your executive team. And they can be provided executive level dashboards that show training impact specifically in revenue terms and quota attainment and other similar important reports so they stay informed of the tangible value and transformative strategic results that learning and development is delivering to the organization every single day. But when it's all said and done, the fuel for which these metrics are fired by is really optimization of learning engagement and knowledge retention, which my colleague Avon will discuss in more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So learner engagement and knowledge retention, one of the key elements of this entire architecture. If we start with a challenge, and this may be relevant to many organizations, many traditional LMS platforms deliver passive content, so courses, and typically the consumption is less than 25%, what we've seen, but on an average, that's between 15 to 25% engagement, which is poor, and which eventually leads to a poor knowledge retention. Uh, Enterprise learners expect consumer grade experiences, and there's a lot out there which can be provided considering a consumer grade experience. But definitely, with a Salesforce LMS solution, organizations are able to resolve this challenge pretty well. Because a Salesforce LMS can deliver personalized role-based learning, uh, maybe pathways, it can automate onboarding process, but on top of that, we can leverage gamification capabilities, social learning capabilities, and most importantly mobile accessibility, which can eventually drive 3 to 4 times engagement and improve the overall knowledge retention process or the learner engagement process. um, these are just a few items that I've highlighted over here, and we'll dive deeper into it. But some of the strategic outcomes for an enterprise would definitely be providing a personalized learning experience, either based on role of an individual or their career trajectory. Uh, and definitely a mobile first design. So individuals are out who are out there in the field or work remote, they can still access learning on the go. Also, a mobile first is very, very important when it comes to a learning management system. Um, uh, I mean, we are all pretty much on the go and need a way to take a course or attend a training in the easiest possible way. That's where either a mobile app or a mobile responsive LMS comes into play. Gamification like badges, points, and leaderboards are great and definitely engage your users' engagement, not just with the overall platform, but most importantly into learning. It can drive some friendly competition as well and encourage your participants to learn faster, efficiently, because there's a reward tied to it. And then about social learning and peer collaboration features. So social learning features, like discussion forums, maybe a live chat embedded into a training, can really boost that engagement and interactions between individuals, between either employees or let's just say your training participants. Um, and we've seen that in such scenario, when you have some social learning element added to a training, we can expect some great engagement. We can expect some great questions coming out, and definitely with a big group of individuals involved in a single training, engaging into a discussion, you can expect a lot more ideas and. Moreover, learners on the other end can also get responses to their queries, thoughts, questions. So social learning, peer collaboration is definitely one of the must-haves, I would say. Micro learning and just in time content delivery. Now, micro learning has gaining some popularity in the last few years, I'll say. Um, it's very similar to watching a short video, and it's a great way to keep your learners engaged, and provide them with content on the go. Now, when it comes to just-in-time content delivery, you need a system that's easy to use, something that can help you create the learning material right away and have that delivered to your audience within a delay, without a delay. So that's something to look out for. And then most importantly, I'll say an AI-powered content recommendation and skill gap analysis makes a huge difference for an enterprise. With AI powered content recommendations, uh, and actually this has getting popularity say ever since the AI capabilities came into an LMS. We've seen that for the last couple of years now. Um, Recommendations can play a great role, and these recommendations are AI generated recommendations. So there are a number of factors AI looks into when it comes to providing recommendations to an individual. And we can ensure that while it is recommending relevant content, it's also keeping in mind that the role of an individual or their career path. So still tries to find relevant content and deliver that content right away. So those are a few strategic outcomes for an enterprise. And if we just move forward, I want to talk a little bit about a framework or simply give away this enterprise learning and development transformation framework. These are a few steps you can take to transform the learning and development process at your organization. And it all starts by assessing your current training spends, your systems, if there's a system fragmentation, and any compliance gaps across all business units. So obviously, first step comes into assessment. We need to assess our systems. We need to assess how much we're spending, maybe by teams, maybe by business units, by locations. There are many more factors to look at that, but that's where you get started. And once you have some information, once you have been through your assessment, it's time to consolidate. So that's where we can migrate from a disparate or a typical LMS platform to a unified Salesforce native learning infrastructure. And when we think about consolidation, we may want to look at automation as well. Automation is definitely required. This will save a lot of time, create workflows, such as for enrollment. So you have a new individual joining the organization. You don't have to go through the process of finding the onboarding course or assigning an onboarding training or a compliance training to an individual. This whole process can be fully automated. And also on top of that, some automations around reporting like compliance tracking and maybe progress tracking and reports. All of these could be automated as well. So automation is definitely something to have in mind. But from there, we move to integrate. And that's where we think about integrating or connecting our existing systems and synchronizing data between systems. That's important because each organization uh, has some sort of a solution, some sort of a product or an application that all the employees would utilize. And in most cases, that's going to be an HRMS system, could be a CRM, or when it comes to Salesforce, there could be a number of things. But that's when you're looking at integrating your systems together. Uh, and this integration should not just be limited to signing in and signing out. So not just a single sign-on, but most importantly, syncing data between both systems. So you can essentially track what the employee has been doing, not in the LMS, but into your HRMS system as well. That typically leads to a unified business intelligence. But then there's the next step, which is about optimizing. So this is where we can leverage analytics to continuously improve content effectiveness and also the learner outcomes. And optimizing can happen in many different ways. You may optimize a training, identify skill gaps of an individual, provide them with relevant content. There are many more ways that go into optimization, and also depends on what items we are lacking right now. Then we move to scalability. Now we're considering a global organization over here. So that would be the part when we deploy our solution globally with centralized governance and regional autonomy. So we have our workflows in place, we have our automations in place, we have our data in place. Now it's time to scale. So expand your solution um, throughout the organization, throughout regions. Lastly, will be the step where you can actually where this whole solution can demonstrate some metrics to you, demonstrate some ROI tracking. I'll say one of the most important things. So reporting ROI in business terms like revenue impact, training impact, risk reduction, and overall operational efficiency will give us some meaningful insights and help us make some meaningful decisions. But that's the kind of a roadmap, I'll say, or a framework that you can take away if you're thinking about transforming your enterprise learning and development process. From here, I did wanted to talk a little bit about a success profile. So this is a case study for a global technology organization, and there were a number of challenges before they moved to a Salesforce LMS, and this transformation has been great. We can see some outcomes over here, but let me break it down for you. So before me moving to a Salesforce LMS, this organization had 7 separate LMS platforms, each for a different region. So meaning they have presence in 7 regions, and for each region they had a different LMS. Um, and they spent about nearly $4 million in annual training technology spend. So it's not just spent on the LMS. I'm not saying they spent like $4 million on 7 different LMS platforms. That's just part of it. There are many more items that go into training technology where these spends were recorded. They had about 23 FTEs managing compliances manually. So 23 individuals have been assigned to manage uh, individuals in different regions and track their compliances. Um, and and but uh, the completion rate. So when it comes to completion rate, that was roughly about 18%. So 18% average course completion rate is way too low for a global technology organization. That eventually means your users are not really participating, your learners are not really participating into it, or maybe they're not provided with the right training, or they're just not aware if they haven't completed a particular training or as such. There might be a number of reasons behind that. But eventually, since there was no correlation between training and revenue, there was no way to track the training impact, and most importantly, track the return of investment. With that being said, after this transformation to a Salesforce LMS, they now have a single unified platform globally. So 7 systems not needed anymore. It's just one system globally. And the spend on the training technology significantly dropped by 57%, bringing it down to 1.8 million, which was 4.2 million earlier. Um, FTEs as well. So that also gets impacted with these automated workflows in place. You don't need a lot, you don't need many individuals to manage compliances manually. These automations will reduce burden on many individuals, and that's the reason why uh, the number of FTEs they had dropped significantly again to 61%. Now, when it comes to course completion rate, and we're talking about average completion rate, you'll see that there's a huge spike in that number. So moving from 18% average course completion rate all the way up to 67%, that's a 272% growth in regards to average completion rate. Now, that's huge, and that gives confidence to an organization that their learners are really engaging into the content and it's making a difference. But another way to track difference is ROI. Now, since they did not have a way to track ROI, this is what happened. They can now correlate the data, the training data, with the revenue. And the way we look at it, uh, their representatives who were trained through this new Salesforce LMS were able to achieve a 34% higher quota attainment. Uh, that could also mean 34% growth in revenue or in overall business. But eventually, if we look at a 12-month business outcome, 2.4 million cost reduction. So that's an annual savings in technology and staffing, 272% engagement increase. So that's increase in course completion rate and the overall improvement. 34% revenue impact, higher quota attainment for trained representatives, and 100% compliance coverage. Zero manual tracking required. Everything is automated. And I think, and I feel like many organizations will relate with this particular success profile, and definitely they do want to reach this level as well. And I'll say this is feasible. You just need the right systems in place, you need the right workflows, and you need the right plan, you need the right vendor. But with that, let's dive into the demo for a bit. I'm going to walk you through some capabilities that we discussed, but most importantly, I wanted to show what an experience looks like for a Salesforce integrated LMS, and in this case, we're referring to Maple LMS. So we're going to take a look at Maple LMS in action. I'm just trying to switch my screen over here. There we go. And right now, I'm on a login page of one of my demo sites. Um, Now, this integration clearly has data synchronization capabilities, but something which is really essential is a single sign-on. Single sign-on basically eliminates the need to create user accounts, to upload users, or send them emails, create passwords, usernames, none of that. And in this case, we're going to log in to this site with an SSO instead of a username and a password. Now, all I have to do is click over here. I'm going to log in via this option which says community. Eventually, it takes me to Salesforce. And when I'm over here, all I have to do is log in to Salesforce. So that completes my authentication. And I'll be redirected back in Maple LMS. Now, once you're logged in, you'll see any announcements. And once you're here, you'll find ways to explore content or engage in any ongoing training that has been assigned to you. Not just training, maybe learning paths. We also talked about personalized learning paths. So those could be automatically assigned to individuals and they see it on their screen just like this. Now, one thing to notice in this learning path, the one that we're looking at right now, there are about 3 different courses within this path. Uh, we don't have progress yet because this is just assigned to the learner, and I can start on the first course, but I don't have options to start on the next few courses. And that's because this path goes in a sequential pattern. You have to start maybe with the foundations or introductions training. Once you complete that, the next training course unlocks for you automatically. And eventually, when you complete the overall learning path, you could be awarded with a certificate of completion, maybe with a badge as an achievement. So that would be the setup around learning paths. And then around recommendations. So what we're looking at right now is a recommendation page inside Maple LMS. You'll find some featured courses, courses based on my profile and my interest, and also based on my previous course completion. Uh, but there are a few more things that this AI recommendation is considering. So not just interest, maybe department of an individual, maybe their role in the organization. So it differs, it can differ by role or personas. And these recommendations are automatic, so we don't really have to do any setup. We just need to have the right information in the LMS and in Salesforce. Um, with that being said, we do synchronize data back and forth with Salesforce, and a number of items can sync back. But here, since we are looking at recommendations, let's also head back for a bit and maybe pull up an example. So let's say Introduction to Autonomous Defense System. That's an online course which I've completed, but there's a participant forum available within the course as well. And this is what I was referring to when it comes to social learning. So tools like a discussion forum or a chat can drive some engagement within your training. Now this guy over here is just asking a question about autonomous defense systems. And any individuals can then come over here. They can discuss this topic. They may like or dislike that particular post, but then eventually they can respond and engage in a conversation. We then see a number of content files over here, such as this foundations file. This over here, I believe, is a video. But there are knowledge checks. So there's an assessment, feedback survey, and a certificate available in the end. We also talked about some gamification. So you'll see some tools or options like a leaderboard over here where I have 5 different levels available within this training. And each level is, well, some points are associated with each level. So when you get started, you're a beginner. When you earn a few points, you're an intermediate, and eventually, once you complete the overall training, you're a professional. That's what a leaderboard could look like. Well, we haven't looked at the leaderboard yet, so actually, that's what the leaderboard would look like. We were looking at the levels available in this leaderboard, and here I can simply see other participants, the points they've earned, and the progress and the points needed to go to the next level, ranking and level, name of the participant right over here. Let's head to the profile for a bit. Now, profile captures quite a few things. We see interest of this individual, audience type, and these are just fields. These are profile fields that could be created in Maple LMS easily. And with this integration, we are able to populate those fields with data uh, automatically. So when David Smith, this user, signs into the platform, signs into Maple LMS through Salesforce, Maple LMS brings over attributes from within Salesforce and updates their profile with the right information. But then there are achievements as well. So maybe a badge, maybe certificates earned. But most importantly, all of this goes back to Salesforce. So that again brings us back to the integration capability. I'm just going to log into one of my sites. Okay, that's a different site. Let's come over here. Okay, so we talked about data sync capabilities in Salesforce. I'm going to show you some examples over here. This is a record of a user John D. What we can see is a list of courses that have been assigned, current progress, completion status, enrollment date as well. And this data will automatically sync over. So anytime John goes into Maple LMS, maybe takes a course, has some progress, or maybe earns a certificate or a badge, that data will be updated across his record. Now we're looking at a contact record, but it could be any record type. Sometimes we sync data with person accounts, sometimes just with user accounts as well. We'll see certificates. So certificates that John has achieved, and name of the course, date when the certificate was issued, and a few more items over here, which are other objects. But with this data coming back, you then have flexibility to build out reports and dashboards in Maple LMS. And here I've just set up a fairly simple dashboard where you can have a comprehensive dashboard that combines data, not just learning data, but maybe performance data of an individual. And that way you can have a unified dashboard as well. But here we can track user enrollment. So I see some of my users over here, the courses that they're enrolled into, name of the courses on the right-hand side. We can track completion status by an individual. So we're looking at number of completed, in progress, and courses that haven't been started. And if you look at John's record over here, there are about 36 courses that haven't been started yet, about 16 that are in progress, and about 11 courses that have been completed by the participant. But many more things, maybe tracking user enrollments, maybe a monthly enrollment report, or a custom dashboard which has some combined data. So a number of possibilities and a number of automations that can be done through this integrated solution. One that I can think of is automatically assigning relevant training to the right audience, depending on their profile or their record in Salesforce. But that's a little bit that I wanted to walk through on this demo. From here, I'm going to switch back to our slides and hand it back to Darian.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Avon. That was a great breakdown.